Marine dolphin spots something in the depths of the ocean, and what happens next left the entire Navy speechless. The piercing sound of sonar echoed through the deep waters of the Pacific Ocean, but it wasn't coming from any of the Navy's sophisticated equipment. Lieutenant Commander James Peterson stood frozen at the monitoring station aboard the USS Hawthorne, his eyes fixed on the unusual readings before him. After 15 years of service, he had never seen anything quite like this. A trained Navy Dolphin was refusing to return to the surface, instead emitting its own sonar signals at a frequency that made their most advanced equipment seem primitive. "Sir, Echo's vital signs are stable, but she's diving deeper," reported Petty Officer Maria Rodriguez, her voice tight with concern. Echo was their most experienced marine mammal, a bottlenose dolphin with over 8 years of service in mine detection and underwater recovery missions. She had never behaved erratically before. The tension in the Combat Information Center was palpable as Admiral Richardson entered, his weathered face creased with worry. "Talk to me, Peterson. What's our girl doing down there?" "Admiral, she's at 800 feet and still descending. That's well beyond her usual operational depth." Peterson's fingers flew across the keyboard, bringing up more detailed readings. "But here's the strange part. Her heart rate is elevated, yet she's showing no signs of distress. It's almost as if she's excited about something." The USS Hawthorne had been conducting routine training exercises off the coast of Hawaii when Echo had first detected something unusual. What started as a standard sweep had quickly evolved into something unprecedented when the Dolphin broke from her training protocols and began her mysterious descent. Dr. Amanda Chen, their marine mammal veterinarian, pushed her way through the growing crowd of officers. Her decades of experience with marine mammals had earned her the nickname, the Dolphin Whisperer, among the crew. "Let me see those readings," she demanded, leaning over Peterson's shoulder. Her eyes widened as she studied the data. "These sonar patterns, they're not search signals. They're communication attempts." "Communication?" Admiral Richardson's eyebrows shot up. "With what?" Before Dr. Chen could respond, Echo's signals changed dramatically. The monitoring equipment erupted with activity as new sounds filtered through their hydrophones, strange harmonic frequencies that seemed to pulse with an almost musical quality. "She's receiving a response," Dr. Chen whispered, her face illuminated by the blue glow of the monitors. "Something down there is talking back to her." The crew watched in amazement as Echo's depth continued to increase, now passing 1,000 feet. The pressure at such depths would be enormous, yet the Dolphin's vital signs remained strong. More mysterious signals filled their speakers, creating patterns that none of their computers could decode. Lieutenant Commander Peterson's hand hovered over the emergency recall signal. They could force Echo to return, but something in Dr. Chen's expression made him hesitate. The veteran scientist was transfixed by the incoming data, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "Don't," she said softly, placing her hand over Peterson's. "This is beyond anything we've ever encountered. Echo isn't just finding something. She's making first contact." Admiral Richardson paced the length of the command center, his years of military experience warring with the unprecedented nature of the situation. "Doctor, are you suggesting what I think you're suggesting?" "Admiral," Dr. Chen turned to face him, her voice trembling with barely contained excitement. "I've studied marine mammal communication for 30 years. These signals, they're structured, complex. Whatever is down there, it's intelligent, and Echo may be our only chance to understand it." The tension in the room shifted from concern to wonder as the implications of her words sank in. They had trained dolphins to find mines, protect ports, and recover lost equipment. But no one had ever imagined they might lead humanity to something far more extraordinary. A young ensign's voice broke through the hushed silence. "Sir, incoming footage from Echo's camera system." The main screen flickered to life, showing the murky depths through the low-light camera attached to Echo's harness. The image was grainy and dark, but something was moving in the darkness ahead, something that made every person in the command center hold their breath in anticipation. As Echo continued her descent into the mysterious depths of the Pacific, the crew of the USS Hawthorne stood witness to what might be the beginning of the most remarkable discovery in naval history. Their trained dolphin had found something in the ocean's depths that would not only leave the entire Navy speechless, but potentially change humanity's understanding of life on Earth forever. The question that hung in the air, unspoken but weighing on every mind present, was whether they were ready for what Echo was about to reveal. The image on the main screen suddenly sharpened as Echo activated her auxiliary lights. What the crew saw next caused several gasps and muttered exclamations. Through the crystalline water, massive structures loomed in the darkness, geometric shapes that couldn't possibly be natural formations. Their surfaces gleamed with an otherworldly iridescence, reflecting Echo's lights in patterns that seemed to shift and pulse. "My God," Admiral Richardson breathed, unconsciously gripping the back of Peterson's chair. "Are those buildings?" Dr. Chen was already analyzing the footage, her fingers flying across her tablet. The surfaces appear to be covered in some sort of bioluminescent organism, but the structures themselves, she shook her head in amazement. They're definitely artificial. The symmetry, the repeated patterns, this was built by something intelligent. Echo's camera feed showed her swimming closer to one of the structures, which rose at least 50 feet from the ocean floor. Its surface was covered in what looked like hieroglyphics, but unlike anything found in any human civilization. They seemed to move and change as Echo's lights played across them. "Sir," Maria Rodriguez called out, her voice tight with excitement, "Echo's vitals are showing increased endorphin levels. Whatever she's communicating with, it's making her happy." As if in response to Rodriguez's observation, Echo emitted another series of complex clicks and whistles. The response that came back was immediate and overwhelming, a symphony of sounds that caused every piece of acoustic equipment in the command center to light up like a Christmas tree. Dr. Chen grabbed Peterson's arm. "They're welcoming her," she whispered, tears now flowing freely down her cheeks. "I've studied dolphin vocalizations my entire career. These patterns, they're consistent with greeting ceremonies in wild pods. But the complexity, it's exponentially beyond anything we've ever recorded." Admiral Richardson had already picked up the secure phone to Naval Command. "This is Richardson. We're going to need a full research team out here immediately. And sir, you might want to sit down for what I'm about to tell you." While the Admiral spoke in hushed tones, the rest of the crew watched transfixed as Echo continued her exploration. The camera revealed more structures, some interconnected by what appeared to be tunnels or bridges. Schools of unknown fish species darted through the water, their bodies emitting soft pulses of light that matched the patterns on the buildings. "Look there!" Peterson pointed to a dark opening in one of the structures. Echo was swimming toward it, her sonar emissions changing to shorter, more focused bursts. Dr. Chen nodded enthusiastically. "She's checking if it's safe to enter. This is exactly how dolphins explore new caves in the wild. She hasn't forgotten her training. She's combining it with her natural instincts." As Echo approached the opening, something emerged from it. The entire command center fell silent. Gliding through the water with graceful undulations was a creature unlike anything they'd ever seen. It had the general form of a cetacean, but its skin rippled with patterns of light that seemed to form and reform into complex symbols. Its head was more elongated than a dolphin's, and what appeared to be tentacle-like appendages flowed from behind its fins. "It's beautiful," Rodriguez whispered, voicing what everyone was thinking. Echo's camera caught the moment the creature moved closer to her. Instead of showing fear, Echo remained calm, her vital signs indicating curiosity and positive excitement. The creature extended one of its appendages toward her, and the bioluminescent patterns on its skin began to pulse in rhythm with Echo's sonar clicks. Dr. Chen was recording everything, her hands shaking slightly as she operated her equipment. "This is unprecedented. They're developing a real-time communication protocol. Echo's natural sonar abilities combined with her training, she's the perfect ambassador. Of all the dolphins we could have sent down there, she's the only one with the experience to handle this." Admiral Richardson returned to the group, his face a mixture of awe and determination. "A research vessel will be here in 18 hours. Until then, we maintain position and continue monitoring. Dr. Chen, you'll be the lead scientific contact for this operation. Peterson, I want continuous backup of all data we're receiving. If this is what we think it is." Sir, Peterson finished the thought, this changes everything we thought we knew about life on Earth. More of the creatures were emerging now, their bodies creating a hypnotic light show in the depths. Echo moved among them with growing confidence, her cameras capturing evidence of an underwater civilization that had existed unknown beneath the waves, possibly for millennia. As the crew of the USS Hawthorne watched in wonder, they knew they were witnessing not just a milestone in naval history, but a moment that would forever change humanity's understanding of its place in the world. The ocean, which had always held countless mysteries, had just revealed one of its greatest secrets, and it had chosen a Navy Dolphin as its messenger. As news of the discovery raced up the chain of command, the crew of the USS Hawthorne found themselves at the center of what would soon become the most classified naval operation in history. Dr. Chen hadn't left the monitoring station for hours, her eyes fixed on Echo's feed as the Dolphin continued her extraordinary interaction with the underwater beings. Doctor, Peterson said softly, placing a cup of coffee beside her, you need to rest. You've been at this for 16 straight hours. Nine. She shook her head, not taking her eyes off the screen. James, look at this. She pointed to a sequence of light patterns she'd been recording. These aren't random bioluminescent displays. They're mathematical sequences, prime numbers, Fibonacci series. They're showing us they understand complex mathematics. The creatures, which the crew had begun calling the luminous ones, had been demonstrating increasingly sophisticated attempts at communication. They would create geometric shapes with their light patterns, wait for Echo to respond with sonar clicks, then repeat the sequence with variations. Admiral Richardson entered the command center, accompanied by Dr. Thomas Walsh, a cryptologist who had just been flown in from the Pentagon. Walsh's eyes widened as he took in the displays. Remarkable, he breathed. They're establishing a basic visual language. More than basic, Dr. Chen corrected, pulling up a series of recordings. Echo's been applying her training in a way we never anticipated. Remember how we taught her to identify different types of mines and underwater ordnance by their shapes? She's using that pattern recognition training to respond to their symbols. She's learning their language. A collective murmur went through the command center as Echo's camera showed one of the luminous ones creating a perfect sphere of light, followed by a cube, then a pyramid. Echo responded with sonar patterns that matched the complexity of each shape, and the creatures responded with what could only be described as excitement, their entire bodies glowing with cascading waves of light. But here's what's truly extraordinary, Dr. Chen continued, her voice thick with emotion. Watch this sequence from an hour ago. The footage showed Echo swimming closer to one of the structures. The luminous ones had created a three-dimensional light display that seemed to show the Earth's oceans, complete with major currents and underwater topography. Then slowly they added points of light at specific locations. Dr. Walsh leaned forward, his professional detachment forgotten. Are those other settlements? Dr. Chen finished. They're showing us there are more of them out there. Communities of intelligent beings have been living in our oceans all along, staying hidden in the depths beyond our normal operating ranges. Peterson studied the display carefully. But why reveal themselves now? Why to Echo? A new alert sound drew their attention back to the main screen. Echo's camera showed several of the luminous ones gathering in formation, their bodies synchronizing to create a massive, complex pattern of light and shadow. As the crew watched, the pattern began to take shape. It was a representation of Earth, but something was wrong with the image. Dr. Walsh's face paled. They're showing us ocean temperature changes. Look at the patterns. They're displaying decades of warming trends in a matter of minutes. The image shifted, showing various marine ecosystems in decline, coral reefs bleaching, and changes in ocean currents. The message was becoming clear. The luminous ones weren't just making contact, they were trying to warn humanity about the changes they'd been witnessing in their marine environment. Admiral Richardson's voice was solemn. They've been watching us all along, monitoring the health of our oceans, and now they're reaching out because they need our help, Dr. Chen finished, or maybe they realize we need theirs. She turned to face the Admiral, her expression determined. Sir, Echo isn't just making first contact. She's building a bridge between our worlds. These beings have knowledge about our oceans that could be crucial for understanding climate change, marine ecology, everything. Echo's vital signs continued to show excitement and engagement, even after hours of interaction. She had found her way into a role no one could have predicted during her training, becoming Earth's first diplomat to an underwater civilization. As the research vessel approached their location, carrying teams of marine biologists, cryptologists, and other experts, the crew of the USS Hawthorne knew they were watching history unfold. Their trusted Dolphin companion had not only discovered something unprecedented, but had also opened a channel of communication that could change the course of human understanding about life on Earth. The luminous ones continued their light show, now creating patterns that seemed to suggest solutions, showing how ocean ecosystems could be restored and balanced. Through Echo's camera, they watched as ancient wisdom met modern science, offering hope for the future of Earth's oceans. The research vessel Genesis arrived just as dawn was breaking over the Pacific. Dr. Chen watched from the USS Hawthorne's deck as teams of scientists began setting up their equipment, her mind still processing everything they'd witnessed over the past 24 hours. Echo remained below, maintaining her remarkable connection with the luminous ones, while the human world above scrambled to catch up with this paradigm-shifting discovery. "Beautiful morning," Lieutenant Commander Peterson said, joining her at the railing. Their shoulders brushed as they both stared at the horizon, the weight of their shared experience creating an unspoken bond. "Echo's been down there for over 30 hours now. No dolphin has ever sustained such deep water operations for this long." "She's not just surviving, James, she's thriving." Dr. Chen pulled up the latest vitals on her tablet. "Look at these readings. The luminous ones. They're somehow helping her adapt to the pressure and oxygen demands. They're protecting her." Below deck, the command center had transformed into an impromptu research hub. Dr. Walsh and his team of cryptologists worked alongside marine biologists, their excited discussions filling the air as they analyzed the growing database of light patterns and sonar responses. "Dr. Chen," a young researcher burst into the room, his face flushed with excitement. "You need to see this. We've started decoding some of the mathematical sequences, and, well, you should just look." The main screen displayed a series of light patterns that the luminous ones had been repeatedly showing. As they watched, a computer program began breaking down the sequences, revealing embedded information about ocean chemistry, marine ecosystems, and most surprisingly, detailed data about historical climate patterns going back thousands of years. "They're not just intelligent," Dr. Walsh announced, his voice filled with awe. "They're keepers of Earth's environmental history. Their light patterns, they're a living library." Admiral Richardson, who had been quietly observing, stepped forward. "Doctor, are you saying these beings have been recording Earth's climate data all this time?" "Not just recording, sir." Dr. Chen pointed to a new series of patterns emerging on Echo's feed. "They're showing us tipping points, critical moments in Earth's history when oceanic systems underwent dramatic changes. And look at this." She highlighted a particular sequence. "This pattern keeps repeating. I believe they're trying to tell us we're approaching another such moment." The mood in the command center grew somber as the implications sank in. The luminous ones weren't just sharing their existence, they were trying to help humanity understand the precipice they were standing on. Suddenly, Echo's sonar patterns changed dramatically. Her camera feed showed several of the luminous ones moving in perfect synchronization, their bodies creating a massive three-dimensional display that filled the water with pulsing light. The image they created was unmistakable. It was a map of ocean currents, but not as they currently existed. It was a prediction of how they would change in the coming decades. "My God," Peterson whispered, "they can forecast ocean current shifts?" Dr. Walsh nodded slowly. "Their civilization has survived countless climate changes. They understand these patterns better than all our supercomputers combined." Echo's camera panned to show more luminous ones emerging from their structures, each adding their light to the display. The image expanded, showing not just ocean currents, but entire marine ecosystems, interconnected in ways that human science was only beginning to understand. "They're offering to help us," Dr. Chen said, her voice thick with emotion. "All these years they've stayed hidden, watching as we damage their home. But instead of retreating further, they're reaching out. They want to work with us to preserve the oceans. Admiral Richardson picked up his secure phone. Get me the Secretary of the Navy, then the EPA, NOAA, and the UN Environmental Program. What we're seeing here, this changes everything. As if sensing the gravity of the moment, Echo emitted a series of clicks that the crew had come to recognize as her expression of joy. The luminous ones responded with a dazzling display of synchronized light patterns, a celebration of this first step toward cooperation between two very different civilizations. Dr. Chen smiled, watching Echo glide gracefully among their new allies. You know what amazes me most, she said to Peterson? Of all our technology, all our sophisticated equipment, it was the trust between a dolphin and her human trainers that made this possible. Echo didn't just find them, she built a bridge. As the sun climbed higher over the Pacific, teams of scientists continued to arrive, and news of the discovery began spreading through the highest levels of government. But in the depths below, Echo remained focused on her role as ambassador between worlds, helping to forge an alliance that could change the course of Earth's future. 2 weeks later, Dr. Chen stood before a small classified gathering of world leaders and environmental experts at the United Nations. Behind her, massive screens displayed carefully selected footage from Echo's historic encounter. The room sat in stunned silence as they watched the luminous ones demonstrate their ancient knowledge through intricate patterns of light and motion. What you've seen today represents only a fraction of what we've learned, she said, her voice steady despite her nerves. Thanks to Echo's continued interactions, we now understand that the luminous ones have been serving as guardians of our oceans for millennia. Their knowledge of marine ecosystems and global climate patterns extends far beyond our current scientific understanding. In the front row, Admiral Richardson nodded encouragingly. Beside him sat Lieutenant Commander Peterson, who had been instrumental in managing the increasingly complex operation. The discovery had remained classified, but plans were already in motion for a carefully managed disclosure to the public. Meanwhile, hundreds of feet below the surface of a now bustling research zone, Echo continued her daily interactions with the luminous ones. The Navy had established a permanent research station above their settlement, with rotating teams of scientists working around the clock to learn from these extraordinary beings. The luminous ones have shown us something remarkable, Dr. Chen continued, advancing to the next slide. They've demonstrated how small changes in ocean chemistry can be corrected through the introduction of specific biological processes, knowledge they've accumulated over thousands of years of maintaining marine ecosystems. The images changed to show spectacular footage of Echo swimming alongside a group of luminous ones as they demonstrated their ability to revitalize dying coral reefs through bioluminescent interactions that scientists were only beginning to understand. The process was like watching magic, except it was pure science, ancient wisdom meeting modern challenges. But perhaps the most extraordinary aspect of this discovery, Dr. Chen said, her voice softening with emotion, is what it teaches us about trust and communication. Echo, a dolphin trained by the U.S. Navy, became the bridge between two worlds not because of her advanced training alone, but because of her natural capacity for empathy and connection. The final footage showed Echo playfully swimming through patterns of light created by the luminous ones, her body moving in perfect harmony with theirs. The beings had accepted her as one of their own, while she maintained her deep bond with her human handlers. She was living proof that different species could work together for the greater good. Back at the research station, Dr. Walsh and his team had made breakthrough after breakthrough in understanding the luminous one's complex language of light and sound. What had started as basic mathematical exchanges had evolved into detailed discussions about ocean conservation, marine life preservation, and the delicate balance of Earth's ecosystems. The luminous ones have offered to help us, Dr. Chen announced to the assembly. They've survived countless climate changes and environmental challenges. Their wisdom, combined with our technology and resources, presents an unprecedented opportunity to address the critical challenges facing our oceans. As she concluded her presentation, the room erupted in discussion. Plans were already being drafted for international cooperation, careful environmental interventions guided by the luminous one's knowledge, and the establishment of protected zones throughout the world's oceans. Later that evening, Dr. Chen stood on the observation deck of the research station, watching the sunset paint the Pacific in shades of gold and pink. Echo had just returned from another successful interaction session, happily accepting fresh fish and affectionate pats from her handlers. You know, Peterson said, joining her at the railing, when I first joined the marine mammal program, I never imagined anything like this. I thought we were just training dolphins to find mines and protect harbors. Dr. Chen smiled, watching Echo play in the fading light. Sometimes the greatest discoveries happen when we learn to trust and listen, not just to our own species, but to all the voices in nature. Echo taught us that. Below the waves, the lights of the Luminous One's settlement twinkled like stars in the deep, a reminder of the extraordinary partnership that had begun with one brave dolphin's curiosity. Thanks to Echo's discovery, humanity had gained not just new allies, but a renewed hope for the future of Earth's oceans. The Navy's Marine Mammal Program had been created to help protect America's interests in the sea. Instead, it had helped forge a connection that would protect all of Earth's oceans for generations to come. And Echo, the dolphin who had left the entire Navy speechless, had become a living symbol of how trust, courage, and connection could bridge any divide, even one as vast as the ocean itself.